Alright guys, we're going to be going over Chapter 3, Lesson 6, Homelinks for our math book. Go ahead and make sure you have your name on here. I'm going to go ahead and write my name so I don't forget. And just a reminder for you. Alright, Josie calculated 1/5 plus 1/2 and said the answer was 2/7. Explain how you know that Josie's answer does not make sense. Well, to me, I have two different denominators and I need to find a common denominator. So I need to think about, is 7 a common denominator for 5 and 2? Well, let's list our multiples of 5 and 2. So 5, 10, 15, 20. I'm going to stop there. 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. The common denominator for 5 and 2 is 10. 7 is not a common denominator for 5 and 2. I also know, because if I think about this, I think what Josie did was she just added straight across. She did 1 plus 1, which equals 2, and 5 plus 2, which equals 7. This does not make sense because we do not add the denominators. So Josie's answer does not make sense because she did not find a common denominator, but instead added the denominators together. And we know that in adding and subtracting of fractions, we do not add or subtract the denominators. The denominators stay the same. And then, did you need to calculate an exact answer to know that Josie's answer doesn't make sense? Tell someone at home why you did or did not need to calculate. So we didn't do any calculations because Josie just added the two denominators, and we don't do that. Make sure you explain that to somebody at home. If no one's at home, explain it to yourself out loud so you can practice using that vocabulary, or explain it to an animal. Renee calculated 3/6 plus 2/4 and said the answer was 5/10. Josie solved the same problem and said the answer was 1. Whose answer is more reasonable? Explain how you know. Well, it seems like Renee just added the numerators, 3 plus 2 is 5, and added the denominators. So to me, that's not reasonable. Josie solved the problem and said the answer was 1. I think her answer is more reasonable, but let's actually do the work and find out. So I can use a little bit of my paper here to help me. I'm going to list the denominators, 4 and 6, and I'm going to count by 6's. And then I'm going to count by 4's. And I'm going to circle my smallest common denominator. So my answer needs to become 12. Well, let's find out. I need to find my equivalent fractions. 3/6 is the same as, what? Well, let's see. 3/6 times a blank fraction gives me a denominator of 12. 6 times what is 12? 6 times 2 is 12. I'm really multiplying by 1, so what I do to the denominator, I do to the numerator. 3 times 6 is 12, so 3/6 is the same as 6/12. Okay, that's one equivalent fraction. Now I need to find my second equivalent fraction. I have 2/4 times something gives me a denominator of 12. That's my goal. 4 times what is 12? 4 times 3 is 12. What I do to the denominator, I do to the numerator because I'm really multiplying by 1. 3 times 2 is 6. And then 4 times 3 is 12. Now I have my two equivalent fractions, 6 twelfths and 6 twelfths. So let's add them together. 6 twelfths plus 6 twelfths equals 12 twelfths. And I know 12 over 12, that's a whole, because if I had 12 pieces of pizza and I still had 12 pieces of pizza to make my whole, that would be one whole pizza. So, who has a more reasonable answer? Josie. So Josie's answer is more reasonable because Renee did not find a common denominator and added the fractions Okay, that's one way. You could also say that Josie's correct because when you find a common denominator, you get 1. Now let's look at this next part. 2 students are playing Build It, and they get 5 cards, so these are their cards, and they must put them in order from smallest to biggest. And our smallest would be close to 0, close to nothing, and our biggest would be close to 1. So we need to circle the winning set of cards. Well, who did it right? So I know that when I have a number closer to 1, that means I'm going to have my denominator and my numerator being very close together. So 11 over 12 is very close together. That means I would have a fraction and I have only 1 piece missing. Okay. And then now, so that's a pretty small piece too because it would be 1/12. Then I have 7/8. Okay. I have 1 piece missing and that's a 1/8, which is 1/8 is bigger than 11 or 1/12. So okay, that makes sense why these would be in that order. 2/3 is close to half. So that makes sense to be in the middle because half of 3 is 1.5. So that's very close. 2 is very close. Now I have 2/8. 2/8 pretty small. That means I would have a fraction and I would have 2 out of 8 pieces, so that's really close to nothing. And then 2 out of 9. That's even closer to nothing because I have 9 pieces and I only have 2 of them. So this one seems to be pretty accurate. Now let's see if this one is more accurate. So, I already can tell right off the bat. These 2 should be flipped. 2/8 is bigger than 2/9. If I were to draw that out, 2/9 would have 1 less piece, or they would have smaller pieces. So it would be should be closer to 0. So that's where the mistake is here. Now let's check. 3/6 is the same as half. Okay. Now let's see. 5/7. That would mean 2/7 is missing. And this 5/8 would mean 3/8 is missing. So actually these 2 need a flip here. So the correct answer would be player 1. Now let's go on to the bottom. And we got to think PEMDAS. So parentheses or our grouping symbols. Multiplication and, I forgot this one. How did I forget it? PEMDAS, the E for exponents, right? Then we have multiplication and division in order from left to right. And then we have addition and subtraction in order from left to right. I like to write that down since I don't have that resource for you guys at home. So let's look at number 4. Our question is insert grouping symbols to make the number sentence true. Let's look at number 4. I want to get to 30. So I know to get to a big problem, I probably need some multiplication or some addition in here. So I want to just try 4 times 6. 6 times 4 plus 1. 6 times 4 is 24. Add 1. Ooh, that's 25. Okay, that won't work. So my other option is 4 plus 1. Well, 4 plus 1 is 5, and 6 times 5 equals 30. So that's where that would go. Now on to the next one. I want to get to 1, and I know that's a small number, so I need to probably look at some subtracting or division first. Well, maybe I do want to do, I don't know, or maybe I want to do some multiplication first, because I have 12 in here, and 12 is a pretty big number. So I'm going to start with 3 times 2. Well, 3 times 2 is going to give me 12. So then I would have 12 divided by, 3 times 2 does not give me 12, it gives me 6, I'm sorry. 6 plus, divided, minus 1. Okay, so let's play this out here. If I subtract, it would be 6 minus 1, which gives me 5. And 5 doesn't go into 12 evenly. So knowing that, I'm just going to try it this way. So I want to do 12 divided by 6 next. Well, 12 divided by 6 minus 1 would be my next step. 12 divided by 6 is 2, and 2 minus 1 is 1. So that is how it would go. It would go 3 times 2 first, and then brackets around this bigger set, so I can do 12 divided by 6, then do minus 1. All right, our answer needs to be 39. All right, so I have 48. That's a big number, but I need to keep 48 so close to 39. So thinking about that, I might want to do some math with 48 divided by 6 first, especially since that's a math fact and easy to do in my head. Okay, so then I have 48 divided by 6, which is 8. Okay, now I got to think about how do I want to approach this. If I were to do 5 times 3, that's 15, and 15 plus 8. Okay, that doesn't get me as close as I want. So maybe I need to add the 5 to the 8. So it's 5 plus 8 times 3. I'm saying that I'm going to do that next. Well, 5 plus 8 is 13 times 3 equals 39. 3 times 3 is 9. All right, so that is the correct way to do it. So 48 divided by 6 first, then bigger grouping symbols to do plus 5. Then the final step would be multiplied by 3. Next one, I'm getting to 5. Lots of division symbols. Wonder what I can do first here. Well, if I were to do 10 plus 10, that's 20. Okay, so 20 divided by 2 is 10. Or 20 divided by 5. No, 50. That doesn't work evenly. I'm going to stick with this 10 plus 10. 10 plus 10 is 20. No, I'm going to rewrite this here. I wonder if this could work. 20 divided by 50 divided by 20 divided by 2. Well, I can't do 50 divided by 20 evenly. So what if I did 20 divided by 2 first? Ooh, that gives me 10. And 50 divided by 10. Well, that equals 5. So that does work. Wow. I like it when it works my first guess. So here I'm going to correct, I need to put my parentheses in the way I did it, which was 5 divided by 10 plus 10 divided by 2. So now I'm going to go ahead and put grouping symbols around the 2 so that I know I do 2 next. So I would do 10 plus 10, then divide that by 2, and then divide that by 50. All right, thank you for getting your homework done. If you have a backside that's not done yet, please make sure you complete that.